So I met at the Humanist conference in San Diego in May, Manuel, and he took over. The speaker didn't show up, and he took over a talk about spirituality for like half of the 30 of the 60 minutes, and his impromptu leading of it was a hell of a lot more fun than when the speaker showed up. So got good hopes for this morning, looking forward to it. But anyway, I'll let now Arthur, I think, introduce our speaker, Manuel.
Yes, I'm very, very happy to have Manuel Manga here with us today. As you might notice, there's a schedule probably you're sitting on that tells basically what's going on. The program itself is Relational Intelligence, Designing Satisfying Relationships, and I suspect that's part of why some of you are here. As he says, relational intelligence, he's going to talk about relational intelligence. Human beings are social animals. We live in systems of relationships with nature, other people, objects, and many other things. In his talk, he will focus on 5 key relationships for human beings. We will also focus on the role of language and conversation in creating and maintaining effective relationships. Conversations for creating relationships, conversations for exploring possibilities, and conversations for effective coordination of actions. We will look into the systemic relationship between emotions and conversation, and the emotions of love as a foundation to human relationships. Also, we will do some individual and group exercises. So here's Manuel. Come forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Art. First of all, let me say how glad to be here again today for the invitation to come back and speak to you again. And can you hear me okay? I'm loud enough? It's okay? A little louder? Okay. So, glad to be here, and I'm also glad to see that I brought a couple of friends here from that I just recently met, and some old friends. I have Doug here and his partner, and I have Tricia and Sanjay, who I just met, and some of you have met before, so I feel like I'm speaking to old friends, new friends, and that's great. And this is a topic that I really like, this topic of relational intelligence. And I call it the science and art, because there is a science to developing relational intelligence. That's the good news, that we know more and more about what makes human beings human. You know, we know more about what makes us human as a species. We know what makes us function and what was good for us and what's not good for us. So that's the good news. We have a lot of good science to draw on. At the same time, I also think that it's an art. So it is an art. You know, the science is good, but you have to put it into practice. So to put anything into practice, it's like an art. You have to, you learn, you make mistakes, right? It's like a good artist. You know, you paint and you make a mistake. It's like watching Picasso create a masterpiece. You know, he paints with black and then he erases it, and then he puts blue, and then he changes it, and you know, 20 days later you get a masterpiece, but it wasn't, the process of creating that work of art was messy. It was a little messy sometimes. So life is a little messy sometimes, and we have to go with that. But it's an art, you know, it's not perfect. There's no formula. I mean, to like how you get this relational intelligence. But there are some guiding principles, and there are some guiding scientific things that can help us achieve greater and greater relational intelligence, okay? So that's what I like to build on. By the way, on this little piece of paper that you got is the summary of talk. My name is, at the beginning, is spelled with an I. It's not with an I. It's Manga. There's no I at the end, so there's no Mangai. Just like, so it's manga, all right? No, mangai. Okay. Let's see. Let me see. It's always good to know. There you go. A few thoughts on the format. The purpose today is to have a conversation, a dialogue, and I hope some of you in the back, if you can run. I'm going to read some of the material, but not everything, because I expect you to read it. But if you have any questions, anything that's not clear, please raise your hand, and I'll do my best to give you a quick explanation, because I'd rather you have a clear understanding of what we're working with, right? Rather than wait till the end. So to create a conversation dialogue on this topic, and my role is to put, several, you could say, issues on the table for dialogue, and then we're going to do a couple of exercises. I wish we had a whole day for this, but we don't. So we'll do a couple of short exercises. So that's the format, okay? It's a dialogue, and I do hope to also have 15 minutes at the end for questions and answer. But you can ask at any moment too, and I'll give a very short explanation. The objectives is to understand the science of our evolving brain and its impact on our relationships, okay? That's one objective. To understand an ontology of human beings as a foundation for building our relationship. So there's the science, and then there's the ontology. And the ontology is the philosophical explanation of human beings. So the science is the machine, that tells us who we are. The ontology is what we make of that. The ontology is what is the interpretation that we humans give to this animal called Homo sapiens sapiens, okay? Because there are many interpretations. And so we need to more or less have an ontology that works rather than one that doesn't work. And to develop relational intelligence as an artistic discipline. So I like to have this metaphor that life in relationships is like a work of art. And so you see that I like that concept of art. It's like a work of art. You cannot create it. You have to be the designer. So you have to be the designer of your life, the designer of your relationship. And I think it's possible to learn how to be a good designer. I think it's possible. Okay? And it takes practice. It takes a little making mistakes, but we can do it. And to approach, I just said that relationship as a work of art. Okay? So, but before we get to that part, I said that I was going to talk about 5 key relationships, but the other day I said, well, let's make it 7. So I gave myself permission to go from 5 to 7. So before I give you my version of the 5 or 7, I'd like you to, in a piece of paper or in your mind, doesn't matter, take a minute or so and think of what are the 5 or 7 relationships that are important to you. That's 5 or 7 relationships that are important to you. Now, by relationships here, I do not mean just people. So it could be relationships to other things. Could be to animals, could be to other things besides people, okay? So give yourself permission to think of what are the 5 or 7 relationships that are important to you today in your life, okay? So make a little mental note of what those could be, okay? And then I'll show you my 7, okay? I'll show you my 7 after that. So let me be quiet for a minute. Be quiet for a minute. Okay, the minutes up. Let me see if don't forget, I said at the beginning that human beings are relational animals, right? So we live in relational systems. So what are some of the relationships that you found important to you? Maybe share one or two if you want to with the whole group. Well, actually, before we do that, why don't you share them with your partner, whoever is next to you. Take a couple of minutes and share that with whoever is next to you. Pick a partner or a trio or something, pick somebody back there and share 2 or 3 relationships that are important to you, okay? So let me just hear a few examples. We have the mic. We have the mic, and anybody who wants to speak and share, speak loudly, please. Well,
marriage would be the first one, and then other relations like my sister, nature, grandchildren, food, world, community, and myself.
Okay, so we got relationships, sister, marriage, nature, food, and what else? And yourself. Boy, you really did a great job there. And community, did I hear community? Okay, another person. You don't have to share all of them. You can share 2 or 3.
Those with whom I disagree.
Those who I disagree.
Right.
Okay.
Politically, philosophically, whatever. I need help with my relationship with Republicans if anybody's feeling helpful.
Okay. Who else? In the back, or this lady here. I'll let you pick the people.
Even though my parents have been deceased for a decade, my relationship with them still affects me greatly.
Your parents, right? Okay.
Can I add one? My relationship with my future.
All right, the future. Okay.
Well, there's 2 extremes: my relationship with myself and my relationship to the human family.
Okay, human family, okay? And this one right here, Martin, I think this fellow, or whatever. Human family.
I mentioned 2. One is to music. Relationship to my music is very important.
Music.
And my dog.
And who else?
My dog.
Dog?
Yeah.
Okay, and a dog. Okay. Let's take about 5 more.
Okay, the rules we live by.
Huh?
The rules we live by.
The rules we live by. Interesting. The rules we live by.
My relationship with my wonderful cat Oliver, who was so kind that he adopted me 1 month before my wife passed away. He was a neighbor's cat.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, cat. Yeah, okay. Who else?
My relationship with the unknown.
Unknown. Oh, wow, okay. The relationship with the unknown. Okay.
I was going to say, what do we got here? My memories of events in my life, in people.
So memory, your memory of events.
And I was going to mention also, I've got a mouse in my attic, and we have not a good relationship, but we definitely have a relationship.
Well, that goes with nature, with cat, mouse, and dog. Okay.
Okay, and my health.
And our relationship with your health. Okay, with your health.
Do we have our relationship with our own physical body on there yet?
Yeah, you can put it here, body, self, health, with your body, absolutely. Okay, one more, and we'll take you, and that's it.
Music and art.
Music and art. Okay, music and art. Yes, this. Change. Relationship with change. Wonderful. Okay, with relationship with change. Okay, this is a great list. I mean, look at that. We have relationships with all. Some things are common, like our food, right? Everyday things like food and animals. But we have health. We have the unknown. Sometimes we don't give that enough. Change and the human family, nature. This is amazing. This is great. People you disagree with, Yeah, that's amazing too. You know, relationship with people with it. Okay, so these are all great stuff. You can see that what makes relationship for people is unique sometimes, but there's some commonalities, right? There's some commonality. I think we all could say we have a relationship with ourselves, all of us, with our mind, with our thinking, with our body, right? With food. Okay, so let's see what I got here. So I got relationship with yourself. I think some of you said that, right? Which could be your mind, right? Your concept, your self-concept. You know, some people don't like their self-concept. Some people like their self-concept. I like my self-concept, you know. Manuel, you know, this crazy guy from Latin America, you know, who grew up in New York City, you know. Relationship with others. We could be, you know, your parents and sister and marriage. Relationship with time. With time. I think some of you, that could be change, but some people said the future, right? The future. That's time. There's a fellow that I'm reading right now, a philosopher called Tony Fry, and he says that we have now what he calls chronophobia. Chronophobia. He thinks that we don't have a good relationship with time. We're afraid to think of the future. You know, we live so much in the present that we don't give ourselves enough time to live in the future, you know, to invent the future, to be futurists. Relationship with the world, with objects, could be different things, objects. You know, money is an object, right? Money. People have a good or bad relationship with money. With nature, people said that. And finally, for me, there's nature and then there's earth. I think it's important nowadays because of our crisis with climate change and what could cause, you know, great havoc to our civilization in the planet and our future. I think we need to pay more attention to our relationship with Earth and evolution. You know, we need to pay more attention to that. Not just nature, but more than that, the future of the planet. Anyway, this is my list, and I appreciate the ones you came up with. So you can see that we live in this ocean of relationship. We live in this system of relations. Some are natural systems, some are human systems, right? Some are mental systems, some are the unknown or time. So it's a very dimensional quality of relationship. I'm going to read a short paragraph from this book that I'm reading right now by Corliss Lamont, this philosopher of humanism. And he says here, philosophers are always reminding people of the interrelatedness of things, always bringing together what has been artificially torn apart and disunited. Okay? And he says, in short, in this age of growing specialization, it is more than ever the business of philosophers to specialize in generalization rather than, you know, fragmentation. So it is the job of philosophers to remind us of the interrelatedness, right, of things. Everything is related. And I think part of the problem we have as a civilization, even though this is not the topic today, is that we live in a civilization that is very fragmented. It is not, we don't see the interrelationship, the interdependence that we have with planet, with people, with animals, with each other, with the human family, as somebody said here. So we need to recover that interrelatedness. So we need to develop relational intelligence, in my opinion, with all those things. Okay, because we are in a fragmented situation. And I mean, if you look at what's going on in Washington, I mean, what better example of fragmentation than our government, right? Right now. Okay, so let's start with ontology. This is an ontology of human beings that I learned from other philosophers, and I like to share with you. I think it's a good working ontology. It basically says that we human beings, our understanding of human beings is that we are biological. We have a brain. You know, the brain by evolution is one of the best brains that we know of, the human brain. It's got great stuff. And it also has a limbic brain. It has emotions, moods. And we also have a neocortex brain, which gives us language. That's why we have language in conversation, because we have a very unique brain that's called the neocortex, okay, or frontal cortex. And because we humans are, by nature, relationship and cultural oriented, we are the kind of animals that almost a byproduct, because we are so social and relational, as opposed to other animals, that we need to live in relationship. We cannot survive without relationship. The human species is relationship dependent. We are very vulnerable that way. And we also naturally form cultures. Whether we like it or not, you know, if you hang around long enough with people, a culture begins to emerge, just naturally. Okay, just natural. People begin to get along, make up stories, right? Eat food together, have myths, and do all kinds of stuff. So this is the ontology of human beings that I recommend for us to understand humans. It's a more or less scientific ontology. Okay, so let's a quick look at the limbic brain. Just a quick look here. We're not going to spend, it basically says here again that we have the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, and the other brain. I just finished talking about that. That comes from this book called Buddha's Brain. And it's important to understand the functioning of this brain, because it's a system that helps us survive, but it also helps us sometimes to do good things, but also helps us to do some crazy things, okay? When it doesn't work functionally well, these three systems. So we need to understand how it works. You can see there the prefrontal cortex. That's the linguistic brain. And then we have the limbic system, the hippocampus, which is the emotional brain. And then we have the reptilian brain, the ones that tells you fight or flight or danger. And it's important to understand the mechanism of the brain. Our brain, neuroscience tells us that the human brain is made to connect with other human brains and other relationships. So we have a relational brain to begin with, so it's not an isolated brain. The human brain cannot grow if it's not stimulated by other brains. It's interesting, whether it's the mother and child, the parents and child, we need that stimulation to grow, to develop. And if you want to develop language as a baby, you need to have people talk to you and go, ba, 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 and how are you, and all that noises that parents make to kids, right? And eventually we develop language. So, out of this systemic relationship between brains, language and relationship and the human mind emerges. And each human interaction has an impact on the configuration and operation of our brain. So it's amazing. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. So for sure, the good ones will be, we fall in love. So when we fall in love, that's a good interaction between two brains. You know, the limbic brain's sort of happy and they're dancing together and you fall in love and everything is wonderful and the person is perfect, right? And life is good. On the other hand, if you don't get along, then life is terrible. Each interaction, conversation, words that we tell ourselves has an impact on our brains and could be positive or negative. So again, the role of language on and emotions on ourselves and others is critical. So that's the mechanism of the brain. The emotions, we need to pay attention. I came up with this concept of relational intelligence after reading a really good book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. How many people have read Emotional Intelligence? Some of you, right? Good. It's a great book. I mean, Daniel Goleman kind of, in a scientific way, say, hey, wait a minute, emotions are key, important for life, for leadership, but I felt that it wasn't just emotions, we needed to be relational. Later on, Daniel Goleman wrote another book that he calls Social Intelligence. So social intelligence and relational intelligence are very much about the same stuff, except that Daniel Goleman doesn't deal too much with the ontology of human beings, and he doesn't deal enough with what I consider to be the role of language, which I do, and people that I respect that deal more with the role of language. So what are emotions? Emotions are predispositions for actions and for relating with each other. So the emotions are our predispositions. So if I have a positive emotion towards you, I like to relate to you. I move towards you. If I have a negative emotion with you, guess what? I don't like to relate to you and I move away from you. So they're the predispositions for action. So when you don't like somebody, you don't walk up to them and give them a big hug, right? You don't. You kind of stay away from them. You know, that's what emotions do. That's what the limbic brain does. Our emotions are intertwined with our conversations. The two go together. So there's no such thing as one could say as having a conversation. So if you look at the DNA of any conversation, if you look at the DNA of any conversation you have with anybody, there's an emotional component as well as the words. So the words and the emotions go together and they shape the conversation. They shape the conversation. So there's no such thing as saying to somebody, don't be emotional. Okay? Like be objective. Don't be, no, there's impossible. So every conversation is loaded with emotions, good or bad, or whatever, positive or negative. Okay? So that's the DNA of any conversation you have with people. Okay? So if you want to design a good conversation, you look at what is the emotion that I want to bring forth, generate with this person in this conversation. Do I want to create a positive emotion, or do I want to do something else? So, in the foundation of our relationship is the emotion of love. So love could be said, the bottom line for all our key conversation is the emotion of love. So let's put love at the center. I know this is tricky here. So far I haven't tripped over, but most. So let's put love as the foundation of, let's say, all of our conversations. Imagine if we did that consciously. Say, I'm going to have a conversation with my boss. Okay, let me put love in there. Or I'm going to have a conversation with my children. Okay, I'm going to put love there. I'm going to have a conversation with my partner. Let's put love there, right? So now what is love? If you look at this biological definition, now I don't know how to get rid of that little thing there. Let me see what I do. Huh? Oh. Who can help me with this one over here? Okay. So let me offer you a scientific or definition of love. This comes from a biologist called Humberto Maturana, who is a Chilean biologist. He says love is the capacity to see the other as a legitimate other, or to confer survival and developmental support to the other, to behave ethical with the other. So to love somebody is to to see the other as a legitimate other in relationship with one. Doesn't mean you have to like him. Doesn't have to mean you have to agree with them, but you can at least say, hey, they have a legitimate point of view, they have a legitimate perspective. I may not like it, but let me hear it, which is the basis for dialogue. We cannot have a dialogue if you don't at least give the other person the perspective to listen to them. Okay, so it's a very practical definition of love. It's not romantic love. It's a practical. So, language and key dimensions. We're going to focus on language as a key shaper of relationships. I figure I put this up. It's hard to read, but language includes not just speaking, includes listening, and includes the coordinations of actions, which includes making requests and promises with other people. By the way, we can share this PowerPoint with you, so you don't have to take a lot of notes if you don't want to. We'll be more than glad to. It's going to be on the website, right? So it'll be on the website. You can have it. You can share it. If you make $1 million, just send me a few money, okay? If you use it to become rich. But it's definitely open to anybody and share it. Because if we're going to transform our planet and our civilization, we need to share this knowledge, okay? I can't say, oh, you can't copyright it. It's not copyrighted. You know, do whatever you want with it, okay? It's yours. And do it for the good things, though, okay? So we'll share this with you. So there's listening and there's speaking, all right? It's not just one or the other. So, language and social reality. So here is a statement that says, there's a lot of stuff here about language. I'm not going to get into everything, but each person perceives a unique world through their mind, assumptions, language, and culture. So each one of us has our own worldview, our own filter through which we see each other, right? And language has a big role to do with that. It could be our beliefs, our assumptions. Each person creates their worlds through their emotions, language, words, conversations, and relationship, etc. Each human being interprets a world in their world. We interpret each world in language and conversations, open or close worlds, and also concealed worlds. So depending on the conversation you have with somebody, it either opens something new for them, like a new possibility, or it can close that possibility, okay? So if you say to somebody, I love you, wow, that could open all kinds of possibilities, right? That could open many things. So, relationships and culture, I'm going to skip that one for now. So here, the foundation of human relationships, okay? It is the emotion of love, which I mentioned earlier. The emotion of love, seeing and listening the other as a legitimate other in coexistence with oneself. Trust, creating trust with a person, making the assessment that the other person is sincere, reliable, competent, and cares for each other. So if you trust somebody, you're bound to build what? A relationship with that person. If you don't trust that person at work or in a relationship or a team, then you don't build a relationship with that person. So what do you need to do? Well, you need to build trust. How do you build trust? Well, here are the elements. You know, you are sincere, you're reliable, you're competent, and you care for each other. That's one way to build trust. Trust is a very big element in human relations. In dialogue, the persons are committed to listen to the other, to understand the other's world, and to co-create a future that works for all. Okay? So, we don't do enough of dialogue as human beings today. That's my opinion. We do a lot of debate. Debate is what dominates our conversation, not dialogue. If you watch, TV or Fox News, things like that, it's all debate. Everybody if you see what's going on in Congress, it's all debate. It's no dialogue. So dialogue is something that we human beings are not that good at yet. So we need to practice them. So how are we going to practice them? I'd like to practice a little dialogue with you right now. I'd like you to find somebody, so we're going to do this in pairs, if we can. Find two people. And I would like one of you to be A, and the other one to be B. So one of you is an A, you choose who wants to be an A and who wants to be a B. Okay, so, and then I'm going to say that the A's are going to have 2 minutes to talk about one of their relationships that's important to them. So if you're an A, pick one of your relationships that's important to you and talk about that. Why is it important to you? You're going to have 2 minutes, and the B, the other person, is just going to listen with full attention, okay? With your body, with your emotion, you're going to pay attention. And at the end of those 2 minutes, okay, the B's are going to tell the A's why that relationship is important to them, and the other person is just going to listen. So we're going to practice dialogue, which means talking and listening, not interrupting, not saying, wow, that was a weird idea. All right? Which is often what we do. So please form pairs and call yourself an A or a B. Do that right now, please. Find somebody that you trust or you want to trust or build a relationship. Let me just take a couple of reactions. How was that, practicing this short dialogue? How was that? Huh? Very good. Very good? Okay, Martin has the mic in case. Somebody else? Yes, that lady?
Well, for us it was very easy because she agreed with me, but I wish I had spoken to somebody who disagreed with me, and that would be a lot more difficult to hear. Okay, all right. Somebody else? Any other experience?
Well, this is not actually an experience, but when I saw practicing dialogue between two people, I thought of a primary care physician and his or her patient.
Yeah.
That's a very important dialogue.
Yes.
Okay, and I've had primary care physicians that the dialogue was hard with that one, and another one that it was really fantastic and smooth.
Okay.
And of course, they both might be excellent doctors, but one tends to go toward the one that one can communicate better.
Perfect. Okay, that's a good judgment. Yeah.
I think for us it was interesting. We were trying to find the common ground, and we found the common ground during the dialogue. At least I felt. I don't know if you felt. So
good, finding the common ground. That's what a good dialogue can often. The dialogue could be said to be one of the key conversations that we humans can do to find common ground or to understand the other. Okay, the dialogue, because in the dialogue you're forced to listen. You're forced not to interrupt. You're forced not to tell the other person, boy, that was a crazy idea. So you're forced to kind of, control yourself a little bit, as opposed to a debate, which is where people are saying, I'm right and you're wrong. In a dialogue, hey, you may be right and I may be right, or we may both be wrong. So you're suspending judgment. So here is a guideline for creating a dialogue between two people. I think the first thing you need to do is to say to that person, I would like to have a dialogue with you. Not just to say, oh, by the way, honey, whatever, and I have this thing on my mind, and start a dialogue in the middle of something that there's no room for it. You have to set the right tone in the right context. So one of the things, once you get used to this methodology of conversations, is to say to the person, I'd like to have a conversation for dialogue. And you say, well, could we do it today? Could we do it at 3 o'clock? Could we do it when we're not interrupted? Could we do it when we're not watching TV? You see what I mean? Could we take the phone off the hook? Could we shut down the cell phone? and give each other their full attention. Is that clear? So it takes a structure. And declare the topic of the conversation. Say, I'd like to have a dialogue with you about money, or about sex, or about food, or about vacation, or any of these relationships, right? And have a dialogue. And then, usually I recommend a dialogue of 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 5 minutes one person, 5 minutes the other person, and then after that 5-minute conversation, you can paraphrase, you can give thanks, you can share with each other, but the first thing is to be heard, to be listened to, which is difficult sometimes, right? Without being interrupted. So you have the full freedom to express your concerns, your thinking. So I say do this at least once a week with somebody you care for. Do at least once a week. That's my recommendation for relational intelligence. One dialogue a week, 10 minutes. Could be anything, okay? Then you get good at it. It's like a muscle. It's like going jogging. You know, you go jogging, you know, you exercise your legs, and whereas dialogue is like a mental muscle, like an emotional muscle, all right? Now I say there are 5 key conversations that we can use to build better relationships. And I know we're getting close to the end, and I want to leave some time for questions and answers. There's the conversation for creating effective and effective relationship, for getting to know each other, okay? Getting to know each other. So that's one, and often we don't do that. We work with people at work. I know people at work who've been working with somebody for 5 years in their next cubicle, and they don't even know who this person is next door. They don't. I go to corporations, I do this work, and people go, you know those people over there? You know, I used to work at Digital Corporation many years ago, and I used to work with the engineers, the design engineers. Then there were the manufacturing engineers. And part of my job was to get the design engineers to get to know the manufacturing engineer, because they both had to build the computer together, right? And that's what I got paid for. You know, because design engineers have to talk to the manufacturing engineers and so forth. And they have to get to know each other. So this happens everywhere. The conversation for dialogue, to understand each other, our assumptions and reality. When you listen to that other person for 10 minutes, you go, this person has some interesting assumptions, right? They think the world is purple when I think the world is blue. Is that clear? Or the world is hostile when I think the world is friendly. Isn't it interesting, right? So that's the conversation for dialogue. It opens up this world of understanding the other. The conversation for exploring possibilities. This is a really good one. Let's say you want to go on a vacation together, or you want to do something unusual. Have a conversation for possibilities, to say, what is possible for us to do together? Oh, we could do this, and in a conversation for possibility is what some people call brainstorm, right? Every idea is good. And you know, you don't judge the ideas that come out for the next 5-10 minutes in a conversation for possibility. You open it up. You say, oh, that sounds like an interesting idea. And you do this at work, you do this with your people, in your relationships. You explore possibilities. And I think we don't do enough of talking about what is a conversation for possibility for building a better civilization, for example. I think the conversation for building a better civilization, we don't do enough of that. We read the paper, it's all bad news, right? And we say, well, wait a minute, how about building a future that's good for humanity, good for planet, good for people? What's possible? What's possible for humanity? Let's give each other 15 minutes to talk about that. We don't do enough of that. We don't talk about what's possible. So I recommend it. The conversation for coordinating effective actions, which is based on making requests and promises, and the conversation for feedback, telling each other what's working well and what's not working well, and feedback. But feedback needs to be done with love, with the right words, with the right emotion. so that it makes sense. We all need feedback. Is that clear? So these 5 conversations, if somebody's doing something that bothers you, like they're stepping on your toe or they're doing something that irritates you, you need to be able to tell them in a good way feedback. The same thing if they do something nice for you, right? They give you a hug or they bring you coffee. Like this morning I had coffee and breakfast with my 2 good friends here, Zen and Doug, and I think I give them good positive feedback. They made great eggs this morning and good coffee, okay? So that's positive feedback. We need that. Okay, so we're getting close to the end here. So we got this. Now this, here's some details about the conversation for relationship, which we're not, but this is one that I want to at least leave you with. The getting what you want from a relationship. I'm going to end with this one, and then I'll open it up. I know it's 12:15, but if I could have a few more minutes here. In any relationship, it's important to get what you want, to be satisfied. The getting what you want from a relationship. And here I suggest that you have a dialogue around expectations, aspirations, goals, whatever it is that you want to create, okay? Make your needs known, your requests, your offers. Say what you want and what you offer or bring to that relationship, okay? Explore possibilities, negotiate, design and create together, and have a structure for the ongoing development of the relationship. And finally, having ongoing conversations and getting feedback. So it's important when you're in a relationship to not only make offers to the other person, could be a simple offer, I kind of make you lunch, kind of make you breakfast or whatever. Would you like to go for a walk? Would you like a back rub, right? Who would not want a back rub? Anybody here who doesn't like a back rub? Right? You say, hey, I'll take a back rub anytime, right? Or if you want a back rub, say, hey, could you please give me a back rub? Will it be okay, right? If you want a back rub, ask for a back rub. Or if you want to go for a walk, say, I'd like to go for a walk. So to get what you want from a relationship, you have to be able to express yourself, express your needs, but also dialogue around it. And I hope that makes sense to you. So let me end with that. Let me take a few questions. Questions, comments.
So just to say, we've got probably just 3 or 4 minutes before that relationship with our food is going to be growing.
Okay. Thank you. There's one in the back there, Martin.
I want to say, when I'm listening to somebody, trying to understand them, I feel that I really need to be thinking that I'm going to have to restate what they're saying. If I don't feel I need to restate it, I don't listen carefully. See, and so this is where I think actively. You mentioned paraphrasing,
right?
But trying to restate in your own words what the other person is saying and find out if you have it straight, without any sarcasm and so on.
Exactly.
So sometimes I'm listening to somebody and I'm not paying close attention. I'm just being quietly, barely listening because I don't feel I have to restate what they're saying. It's casual conversation. But if it's something important, working with somebody who has an issue, I feel it's really important to restate.
Yes, thank you.
And I also want the other person to restate what I'm saying to see if they're really listening.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's good. Somebody else? Question, comment?
Wow, 3 at once.
So I'm sure you have something to say about the idea of where your mind is at when you're having these various different dialogues. And the point I'm wondering about in particular is trying to change someone's mind or trying to manipulate the situation. How do you want to speak to that?
Well, I think before you try to change someone's mind, you need to, I think, have a conversation for dialogue where you really understand them first before you make a judgment that says, boy, their mind really, let's say, is bad, or their thinking is bad. So I think it's helpful to first have a dialogue. And then once you listen to that person, you may decide, wow, I don't like their assumptions, or I don't like their ideas, right? And then you make a choice whether you want to engage in some constructive, learning, or you say, I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to associate with this person. But at least you need to listen to them rather than making like a quick opinion and say, this person is terrible, or this person is crazy, right? That kind of stuff. Yeah. Or before you say, we need to change their mind. Exactly. So first, listen. Okay. Martin? Thank you.
So food is ready, so I think we need to say thank you very much. So you can be here for lunch, right? Last question.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. All right, enjoy the lunch, and I'm around here. If anybody wants to come up during lunch and talk to me about anything, you're welcome to do that. All right? Thank you.